Good morning, beloveds. Oh, okay. I went for a nice long bike ride this morning. Um, and the sun is out, but it's in the mid 40s. Oh, well, it was in the mid 40s when we left. So we had to layer up, which means by the time I got back from the bike ride, I was nice and sweaty. Um, I'm kind of enjoying this whole switching it up. I think when I started this, when I went to ministerial school, I started walking in the evenings because I was spending too much time on my backside with my nose in a book. And so I started walking, and that's what I would do every day. And at this point, I walk 2 days a week, I run 3 days a week, I bike 1 day a week, and I weightlift or whatever it is that trainer has on tap for me 1 day a week. And it's a nice variation, but it all happens around the same time, between 7:30 and 8:30 in the morning. And it works all different kinds of muscles, and occasionally I find muscles I didn't know I had. So, I love the running. I think I do the rest of it in support of the running. And then some days I hate the running. And I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? But I always feel better after I do it, so that's kind of where that is. So it's like, if you don't love running and you don't love walking and you don't love biking, keep trying. You might enjoy swimming. I despise swimming. I hate having my face in the water, and if I don't have my glasses on, I can't see. So I don't enjoy swimming. I don't mind being in the water, like, getting in, splattering in. So, you might really enjoy that. You gotta find something that makes you, even if you don't enjoy doing it, it makes you feel better after you've done it. But you really want to find something that you enjoy doing, most of the time. Most of the time. So because then you'll stick with it. So it's like keep trying. Keep trying. Because that's why Zumba became such a craze, is because it's exercising but it's dancing. And when the Zumba instructors pick really good music, it's fun. I know a couple of good Zumba instructors. That's why I bring that one up. All right. It is March 19th. Our title is Personality. Light's coming through the blinds at such an angle that I've got a rather weird light pattern on my book. So, personality is the use or misuse we make of a unique something back of us that is expressing through us. Within each of us, there must be a divine pattern of individualization that we but dimly perceive and even more inaccurately interpret. Personality has a possibility far beyond anything that is merely psychological or physiological. For it has the possibility not of becoming a mask to hide reality, but rather an open countenance through which reality becomes expressed. We have many personalities if we understand that each is but a reflected form of that behind it which is greater and which may express warmth and color and love, unity and peace, joy and happiness. We should learn to sense this greater self, for it is what the Bible means when it speaks of Christ in us. There is a pattern of God behind our personality, seeking unique expression through it. And to this we should surrender everything we are, for this surrender will not lead us away from reality. It's not an escape, but a revelation and an instrumentation of something greater than we appear to be. Today, I live in the knowledge that there is a presence hidden within me that is both the reality of my true being and the presence of God, I consciously unite my personal self and all its actions with this overdwelling and indwelling reality. I know that the vitality of the living spirit flows through my personality, invigorating it. All its impulsions and actions flow from the presence of God in me as what I am, and reveal to me the same exalted divinity manifesting itself through all the faces of humanity. And the Bible quote is, "Your life is hid with Christ in God." Colossians 3:3. Not sure I pronounced that book correctly. Colossians. Okay. Now I have to think about this. Yeah, this is definitely what I'm going to think about. And I'm going to think about it from a couple of different aspects. One of them coming from a mental illness aspect. Because I had an aunt, a great aunt, who was schizophrenic. And so she didn't have multiple personalities. But depending on how she was feeling, she could be different people. And I think one time I had that conversation with it kind of led into it, but I had a conversation with a therapist. I always get psychiatrists and psychologists confused. She was not the one that could write prescriptions, but she was licensed and, had gone to school and done all that. And I said, I hear voices in my head. And she said, are they telling you to hurt yourself? No. Then you're fine. you're actually, that's normal. That's okay. And I went, and when she told me that, I was like, it took a great weight off my shoulders to know that hearing voices isn't a bad thing, as long as they're not telling you to hurt yourself or hurt other people. Like, if they're just commenting on the weather, or it's the way I write poetry, then I'm not crazy. And I'm going to use I'm not medically crazy, because I call myself crazy all the time for a reason, because I have dealt with clinical anxiety and clinical depression. I have been medicated for it. But there are a whole lot of things. And so I think to some degree, and maybe that's what he's speaking to, is that multiple personality, but the healthy multiple personality. And I'm kind of like actors, but in your regular life, I work out at the Renaissance Festival, the Renaissance Festival here, and what was fun for me is I had all these different characters, and they had different names, and they had different personalities, and they had different accents. And what I noticed is that I would stand differently, and I would talk differently, and then the accent things, and I realized that they're all aspects of me, because the character called Molly would say things that Lisa would not. And I had another character called Bridget, who was just, and she was different. And so they were all different aspects of me in a healthy way. And I think that's what he's talking about. He's talking about all those different aspects. It's like when people meet you, their experience of you can be different based on what's going on in your life and what's going on around you and who you're with. You might have a different personality based on, and it's just a different expression of you, and it's a different expression of the divine expressing through you in situations. And it actually makes me feel pretty good to think about that. So having multiple personalities is not necessarily a mental illness. I mean, it absolutely can be, and I do not want to downplay that. But it can also be what he's talking about. And I like the fact that he starts out with personality is the use or misuse we make of a unique something back of us that is expressing through us. Because most of my multiple personalities are upbeat and happy. And how many people do we know that just they have really grumpy personalities? And you're just like, you're kind of wasting the divine gift that you've been given if your personality is grumpy and mean and people don't want to be around you. It's a misuse. It's a misuse of that divine expressing through you. Within each, do not get me wrong, we all have bad days, because I can be grumpy too. I'm talking about the overall, trend of your personality there. You can ask my husband, I can be very grumpy, especially when I'm tired or hungry. Within each of us, there must be a divine pattern of individualization. I don't know that that was a real word until he made that one up. Individualization, but that we but dimly perceive and even more inaccurately interpret. So we dimly perceive. And that might be what he would consider, what he would say is us interpreting the Christ consciousness. That divine pattern that we're built on. If you talk to Amit Goswami, Dr. Goswami, he talks about the bliss body, but there's 5 layers, and the bliss body is one layer, and then he calls it the gross layer, but the material layer. So there's 3 layers between the gross body and the material body and the bliss body. We got 3 layers to get it wrong. But the good news is we always have that bliss body. So if we're aware of it, then we have a better chance of going back to that bliss body and going, oh, this is the pattern. Well, that pattern is the Christ consciousness. That is the Christ in us. And what is the Christ? The Christ is all of those God qualities. The joy and happiness and peace and unity, the ones that he listed further on down. That's what the Christ consciousness is. And so if we are dimly perceiving it and inaccurately interpreting it, maybe that's where some of our grumpiness is coming from. It's like, no, the Christ consciousness is this, not that. It's generous and loving and kind and compassionate. And when we're not acting that way, then we are inaccurately interpreting the divine pattern that we have been built on. So we need to go back to that place where nothing has ever been wrong, that unfiltered place where we meet the unfiltered God, where we can get a good look at the Christ consciousness and a good look at the bliss body, and then we bring that back. And that's what spiritual practice is for. And I just got off on a random tangent there. Okay, personality has a possibility beyond anything that is merely physiological or psychological, for it has the possibility not of becoming a mask to hide reality, because frequently we are hiding behind our personality, but rather an open countenance through which reality becomes expressed. Now, both times he uses the capital R for reality. So our personality, we can either use our personality to move through the world and show our God, or we can use our personality as a mask to hide. When you meet people who are open and loving and wonderful, you want to be around them. And that is because they are expressing reality. They are expressing the spirit that we know. The spirit that even if we only dimly sense it, it's the spirit we know. And when we meet people who are not that, then we recognize that they're masking who they think they are. because they don't realize that who they are is a child of God. Who they are is a beloved member of spirit, a beloved part of spirit. So they're masking who they think they are. And at which point then they're masking who they are by who they think they are, because they don't know who they are. I'm going to get myself into an argument that I'm not going to be able to get out of, so I'm going to stop there. All right. So personality has a possibility. It is our opportunity to show the world our God. It's our personality is our potential, our possibility to show people who we think God is, who we think spirit is, and it's not even about think, it's who we know. And those are the people who are loving, kind, and compassionate. That's the God that I believe in. That's the God I believe in. Not the great accountant in the sky with the big book. Okay, we have many personalities if we understand that each is but some reflected form of that behind it which is greater, and may express warmth and color and love and unity and peace and joy and happiness. We have many personalities. And then he listed all those qualities. Warmth, color, love, unity, peace, joy, happiness. That's us expressing the divine personality. Because we don't believe in a divine personality, we believe in a divine pattern. And all the little personalities are the expression of that pattern. Which is why we don't believe in the great accountant in the sky. We should learn to sense this greater self, capital S, for it is what the Bible means when it speaks of Christ in us. There's a pattern of God behind our personality, seeking unique expression through it, and to this we should surrender everything we are. Okay, that's a big ask, right? To surrender to the pattern of God behind our personality. For this surrender will not lead us away from reality. It is not an escape, but a revelation and an instrumentation of something greater than we appear to be. So, he's just really digging in here and, okay. It's about being willing to surrender to the Christ consciousness. And what do you believe the Christ consciousness is? And when you go and you look at Jesus, because Jesus is the ultimate example, and that's one of the reasons why we use it. Jesus was not an exception. Jesus is the ultimate example. And there are many more. Jesus just happens to be a really good one and a very famous one of what the Christ consciousness is. Jesus came here to show us that consciousness, to show us how to live that consciousness, to show us how to show people who his God was. The loving, the kind, the compassionate, the creative, the healing. What did Jesus do? He healed the sick. He taught. He fed people. That's the Christ consciousness. And that is what we are called on to have as the base of our personality, is that Christ consciousness. And that it gets to come out in all of these amazing different ways. We don't have to walk barefoot in a long robe and, go fishing on a boat. We can, but we don't have to. Because we have all of the warmth and the color that we get to express. So it's not going to lead us away from reality, but it's going to express that greater reality of the Christ consciousness within us. Today, I live in the knowledge that there is a presence hidden, capital P, presence, hidden within me that is both the reality, capital R, of my true being and, capital P, the presence of God. I live in the knowledge that there is a presence hidden within me that is both the reality of my true being and the presence of God. That's that place, that secret place in the center of ourselves. We always point to our chest, we point to our heart because that's where we've taught that it's been. But it's as much here as it is here, and it can be in our feet too, you know. This is just Western. That is both the reality. So when I get turned around by the world, where do I go? Where do I go to meet that presence hidden within me? I consciously unite my personal self and all of its actions with this overdwelling and indwelling reality. So the reality lives within me as well as all around me. There is nowhere that this presence is not. I'm sorry, it's springtime. I know that the vitality of the living spirit flows through my personality, invigorating it. The vitality of the living spirit, because I'm a splinter of that spirit. Of course it flows through me. You're a splinter of that. And I use the term splinter not to make us feel small, but to remind us how much bigger spirit is than us. But yet we are a part of it. And we're an integral part. Spirit needs us here. And spirit wants us here. It doesn't just need us, but it wants us. And it wants us to be warm and colorful and happy and loving and joy and all of that. And I'm grateful that it, wants us to be warm and colorful, because by God, I am warm and colorful. Well, yeah, warm and colorful. And I revel in the reality of that part of me. That part of me expressing the Christ consciousness as warm and colorful and happy and joyful and, out there. All of my personalities. So I know that the vitality of the living spirit flows through my personality, invigorating it. I know that all of the warmth and color and beauty this is pouring through it. All its impulsions and actions flow from the divine presence of God in me as what I am, and reveal to me the same exalted divinity manifesting itself through the faces of all humanity. So the divine, the exalted divinity manifesting through me, I recognize it in all of humanity. And more importantly, I recognize it in all of life. I want to look in your eyes and see God looking at me, looking back at me. I want to look at my cat's eyes and see God looking back at me. I want to look in the bird's eyes, not that that's easy because they're fast, and see God looking back at me. And I want to look at the trees and see God looking back at me. That's the world I want to live in, because I live in a world where God is not scary. I live in a world where God is not scary. Can the world be scary? Absolutely. Because we misinterpret and we dimly perceive and inaccurately interpret. Yeah, the world can be scary, but God isn't. And so as I look around at all of life, I see God looking back at me, and I know that behind the actions, there is a Christ consciousness. There is a child of God. There is a godling. And I hold the space for them until they can hold it for themselves. And yes, I meet people and I bless them and keep them at arm's length until they know who they are. And that's okay. So, your life is hid within Christ in God. Go find the Christ consciousness and live your best life. That's what that Bible quote says to me. All right. Our mission today, should we choose to accept it? Our mission today, should we choose to accept it, is to surrender to the Christ consciousness, to surrender to that divine pattern of individualization. Because we were built by Spirit. We have a pattern. And I like the term bliss body. And when we forget who we are, that's where we go. And we surrender to that. To be more fully who we are, which is children of God. We are beloved children of God, in whom God is well pleased, always and forever. So on that note, I'm going to encourage you to do something loving for yourself, do something kind for yourself, do something compassionate for yourself. Every day. Every day. Never miss a day to be kind and compassionate and loving to yourself. Never miss an opportunity to be kind and compassionate and loving to yourself. Please don't ever miss an opportunity to do that. Because the more loving, kind, and compassionate you are to yourself, the more you will have for everyone else. And how else can we best express our Christ consciousness than to be loving, kind, and compassionate, especially with ourselves? It looks like it's going to be a beautiful day. So go do something to engage your mind and body. Go get some sun on your face. Drink some water. And remember who you are. And one way to do that is to open the windows of your soul. Allow that breath of heaven to come in and remind you who you are. To find that place within you where nothing has ever been wrong. That place where you meet the unfiltered God. The place where you get a look at that divine pattern that you are. That child of God. That child of Spirit. That ultimate reality. And bring that back here. And be who you are. Because that's what's going to make the world a better place. You being authentically you. All right. It's Friday. I'm going to go get my day out of the way and have a wonderful day. And then I'm going to go to the park tomorrow. Yay. It's going to be nice and cool. So hopefully it'll be a good run. And then I will take pictures of squirrels with peanuts. Do what you need to do to make it a wonderful day. All right? And remember, Reverend David will be on Facebook Live around 5 p.m. with you. And I'll be back with 9 a.m. at 9 a.m. with you. Do what you need to do to make it a wonderful day, beloveds. And know that you are loved.